Today we are going to study a very famous poetry, though a short one by the very famous American poet Robert Frost. And now students, if I'm not wrong, you all have read a few of the poetries by him in the previous classes. Like last year you all studied The Road Not Taken, and the previous year than that Mending Wall. Before we start off with it, I would like to tell you that this is the first poetry of your syllabus, and you will find this poetry on page number 14 of your textbook First Flight. I'm extremely sorry I don't have the hard copy of the book right now, but I definitely do have the written material, and don't worry, while the course of the teaching I will keep on explaining the whole poetry to you, so that even those who haven't been able to get the book by now will gain from it. Okay, so let us begin. Now, before we start off with the explanation of the chapter, students, remember, let's try to understand the meaning of the title of the poem. Because remember one thing, whenever we are talking about poetry or any writing matter, the title is of utmost importance. Why? Because somewhere or the other, it actually talks about an important facet or an important factor during the whole course of the prose, or shall we say that during the whole course of the writing piece. And when we remember Robert Frost, I think you all have realized by now that he is a poet who has been very, very much inspired by nature. Or shall we say, in his own memoir, he had once mentioned that he is very much inspired by the famous nature poet William Wordsworth as well. More on that later. Let's try to understand the title first. Dust of Snow. Now understand that, students, snow, I think we all know what it means. Snow is the falling of the fine particles of ice from the naturally, and dust means a light sprinkling of it. So in simpler words, we can understand it as fine particles of snow. So when snow is being lightly sprinkled over something. Now what that is, we'll get to understand through the poetry. There's one more thing which I have noticed throughout the tenure, and that has been that students have been quite confused. They usually say that, ma'am, in the first para, in the second para, let me correct that. In a poetry, it's never a paragraph, it's always stanzas. Okay, I hope you will remember that. I'm writing it here so that it's understandable. In a poetry, there always is stanza, not a paragraph. So this poetry is a short one. It's only of 8 lines each, and the full poetry is of 8 lines, which comprises of 2 stanzas which are of 4 lines each. I'm going to start with the poetry now. The way a crow shook down on me the dust of snow from a hemlock tree. Now, I think we all have realized by now that Robert Frost has a distinct writing style. His language is very fluid, it's very lucid, it's very simple to understand, and he uses nature as an important matter. He features nature as a medium or the symbol in order to denote the important questions, or shall we say, in order to discuss the important existential questions related to life, or some or the other incidents which have been taking place. And usually he writes his poetries in first person. I think somewhere down the line, as per the scholars, or shall we say the ones who have studied Robert Frost in detail, they have realized that this tendency of his, that is using nature, is to make us feel connected to the world where we live. And the reason why he uses the first person is very simple. Whenever you actually write, or whenever someone writes in first person, you easily connect to that person, and you actually empathize with that person. What is the meaning of empathy? When you actually put yourself in their shoes and you realize that what that person meant, or what that person felt when he or she said that. Okay? So, when he says, the way a crow shook down on me, the dust of snow from a hemlock tree. Now here there are 2 words to use. One is crow and another one is hemlock. Now, if you remember correctly, a crow is known to be a very ominous bird. No one keeps a crow as a pet. Why? Because usually a crow is being considered as an ominous symbol, as if seeing a crow, or if a crow caws when you are going to leave your house, something bad is about to happen. So crow is usually being associated with negativity, as with hemlock. Now hemlock is actually a poisonous tree. Why poisonous? According to legends, hemlock was one of the poison which was being prevalent during those times, and because the fruits of a hemlock tree is poisonous, that's why it is a poisonous tree. Now, why are these two words important, crow and hemlock? Being very simple. He has found out one common factor. He has actually taken up the negative features of nature, or shall we say the prejudice which we have in our mind. Whenever we see a crow, we think it is ominous. Whenever we think about hemlock, we know that because it is a poisonous tree, it is going to cause a person harm. Alright? So now the way a crow shook down on me, the dust of snow from a hemlock tree, it is actually, he is narrating a simple incident. And what is that? That it must have been a snowy morning when our poet must have gone and stood under the hemlock tree by chance. And the crow, he shook down. Maybe the snow may have fallen on the feathers of the crow, and it may have actually shivered, or it may have shook down those snowflakes on the shoulder of on the poet. And why are these two things important? Because a crow as well as a hemlock tree both are considered to be characters, or shall we say symbols of negativity around us. Now let's move on. Has given my heart a change of mood and saved some part of a day I had rued. Now in the first stanza, our poet focuses on the incident which has happened, a very simple incident which can happen with anyone at any point of time. And the second stanza deals with the consequence of that. And what is the consequence? Has given my heart a change of mood and saved some part of a day I had rued. Now I have already written here, rued means ruined. Ruined means destroyed. That means before this simple incident of shaking down of the dust of snow from the hemlock tree by the crow had taken place, before that our poet's day was not going very good. It seems as if he was very somber, as if he was very depressed, as if he was not feeling well, or there may be some or the other reasons during that time. But that simple act of nature by those creatures, or shall we say by those features who are considered to be ominous or negative, had actually uplifted his mood from that of a depressed person to that of a happy person, and maybe have saved some part of his day which was otherwise ruined. It seems to be a very, very, very simple incident, isn't it? On a simple morning, a poet has gone for a walk. He stands by chance under the hemlock tree where a crow shakes down, or shall we say, some of the snowflakes over the shoulder of our poet. But that simple act had actually acted as a catalyst in the change of the mood of our poet from that of a depressed person to that of a happy one. And somewhere down the line, the simple act of nature actually rewarded the day of our poet and uplifted his mood. So in this poem, it seems to be very simple. I think you should understand the morale, shall we say, what Robert Frost means through these lines. Somewhere down these lines, Robert Frost wants us to realize the importance of the simple acts of kindness done by people from whom we least expect. Let's take for an example, you meet a friend of yours, or shall we say a classmate of yours, whenever you meet again, with whom you were not very friendly earlier. But now when you have actually met that person, you find out that you may not have been able to understand something, or may not have been able to bring a book which was being asked by some particular subject teacher, but that person from whom you had least expected had actually brought that book and and even offers to help you out as well. What does this tell you? This is a simple act of kindness done by a person from whom you had least expected that to happen, isn't it? So that is why he also tells us in a similar fashion, using nature as an important symbol, that we shouldn't be prejudiced against anything. We should not formulate our minds based on whatever has been taught to us since time immemorial. On the other hand, we should be open-minded and we should be able to accept the features or the characteristics of anything based on our own personal experiences. Now, if we take into the point of view of our poet, what had happened? If he would have followed the age-old notions, then he would have thought that the hemlock tree is poisonous, it is going to cause him harm. The crow is an ominous bird, it is going to be cause negativity. But what had these two factors done? They had actually uplifted his mood. So, now the perception of our poet had changed related to these creatures. So thereby, we shouldn't be prejudiced against anything. Instead, we should open our mind, we should be broad-minded and accepting of whatever is happening around us, and accepting whatever is happening around us in a positive manner, or in a manner in which we can accept it on our own understanding rather than following the age-old prejudices. Alright, I hope I was able to explain most of the features of this poetry. In case there is any other query, please do post on the comments and I'll surely try to find the resolution of the same. Thank you so much.